All right, so today's propósito. Brianna, can you read the propósito for me, please? Can you say it? I'm sorry, can you say it again? I missed like the whole thing that you said. My volume was very low.
Usamos los verbos en el how do you say that?
Pretérito.
Preterito.
Muy bien, gracias, Brianna. Reina Belly, can you translate it for me, please?
How do we use the verbs and I don't know what that word is.
That word is actually a cognate. It is preterite, right? Which
Preterite?
means preterite, yeah, which means like past tense. So preterite tense, past tense, right? They mean the same thing. But pretérito is just preterite, yeah. Thank you so much, Rina Belli. All right, so today's hagan ahora, you are going to explain to me the difference between these two sentences. Ellos comen una torta and ellos comieron una torta. So I'm going to give you guys 3 minutes to tell me what is the difference between these two sentences, and then we will come back together. So while you guys are working, I'm just going to say the tarea to save time. So la tarea is to complete Tuesdays and Wednesdays homework on the Pear Decks, right? So slides 3 and 4 were homework yesterday and the day before. No more late work will be accepted. So anything that you've already submitted, I will grade and I will put in. If you don't see it put in within like the next hour, right? Email me because maybe I missed it. So if something I was supposed to grade and I haven't graded it yet and it hasn't been put in, please reach out to me so that I can get it in there, right? Sometimes I don't get the prompts when things are submitted and I miss it. So please let me know if you submitted something and I haven't graded it yet, just like Abdullah did before. Send me an email, right? This way I know that that's something that I need to look for before I put in my grades. All right. And also, if you guys have any questions or comments or concerns, you guys can see me after school in tutoring as well, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. All right, so you guys have about another minute and a half. I actually see that most of you guys are done, so I'm going to move on. Let me stop my timer really quickly before it starts ringing when I'm talking. All right, so I'm just going to read off some of your responses. So Rosemary said the first is in the present tense, the second is in the past tense. Absolutely right, that is correct. Comen and comieron is two different words that probably mean two different things. They absolutely do. They both mean to eat, right? But they're just in different tenses, right? One is saying that you're currently eating something, and the other one is saying that you already ate it. Okay? So that was basically the do now for today. All right, so ¿qué son las conjugaciones de pretérito? Right, so we have done this before in Spanish 2. We've practiced it in Spanish 3 in the beginning of the year, right? But it always comes back to haunt us again, right? Because we use conjugations every day, all day, right? When we're writing in Spanish, we're using preterite tenses, we're using present tenses, right? So we have to remember how to conjugate these, and the more we see them, the more familiar we become with them. So when we're conjugating preterite verbs, these are regular verbs. So it's just like when we did present tense verbs, right? They always have the same endings no matter what, right? So when they're irregular or stem changing verbs, those are the ones that can be irregular and have it's a little bit more difficult to conjugate. But preterite tense of regular verbs are pretty standard, right? They follow a rule, right? So the rule for these are when it is an AR verb, right? For yo, it ends in E with a tilde. When it is tú, it ends in ASTE. Usted, el, ella, it ends in O with a tilde. Nosotros, nosotras, it ends in amos. Vosotros, vosotras, hastéis. Ustedes, ellos, ellas, ARON or aron. For ER and IR, right, a noticing, right, is that the conjugations are exactly the same for both. right? So there's not much that you have to do, right? Once you know it's an ER or IR, you can look at either one of those charts because it is exactly the same for both, okay? So you only need one of them, right? You don't really need both of them. So ER verbs and IR verbs, same conjugations. AR verbs, a little bit different, right? So for ER and IR, when you're talking about yo, they end in I. When it's tú, ISTE. Usted, él, ella, I, and then the O with the tilde. Nosotros, nosotras, IMOS. Vosotros, vosotras, ISTEIS. And ustedes, ellos, ellas, IERON. Right? So I wrote an example for you guys in the bottom, the modelo. It says yo escalar, right? That's the original form of the verb in its infinitive form, right? It is untouched, it is unconjugated. Escalar, right? When I take this verb and I conjugate it in the preterite tense, right? I drop the AR and I change it, right, according to the subject pronoun. Well, I know my subject pronoun for this sentence is yo, right? So I'm going to look at my chart here, and for yo, I know that it ends in the E, right, with the tilde. So I'm going to go to my sentence here, and I'm going to drop that AR, and I'm going to change it to an E with a tilde, right? So it changes from yo escalar to yo escalé las montañas, okay? So that is an example for you guys. So I want you guys to try to practice doing it on your own. So I want you guys to try to conjugate the verb in the sentence. At the top, I have put the conjugation chart for you guys so that you guys can see the conjugations. So I just want to see that you guys are able to do the conjugation for this sentence. So I'll give you guys about 2 minutes so that you guys can conjugate the sentence. All right, so let's move on to practice. Oh, but before we practice, I want you guys to tell me if you're feeling red, yellow, or green with conjugating in the preterite tense. I'll give you guys about 1 minute. Sorry, everyone. I had to get the Pear Deck link. Let me put that link in there in the main chat also, just in case anyone needs it. All right, so for what I can see, everyone seems to be green. I see 1 or 2 yellows, and that's totally fine. We are going to practice. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to complete a worksheet where we are practicing using regular verbs in the preterite tense, right? For the first part, you guys are going to choose the correct word that best fits the sentence. So you're going to be given 2 different options, and you're going to choose the correct conjugation for the word. And then for part 2, you're going to fill in the blank by conjugating the word in the parentheses. So they're going to give you the word as I did in the gateway, right? And they're going to basically give you one word that it's untouched, and you have to conjugate it to fit the sentence in the preterite tense. And then in the last part, in part 3, you're basically going to respond to the question about yourself in the preterite tense. So you're going to be using a few verbs, right? And you have to be able to conjugate them while you're writing them in a sentence. All right, so really quickly, just tell me if you understand what is expected of you for this activity. You can just write yes or no. And again, I will be reviewing the instructions, right, every time we get to each part, so you will hear them again in case you did not hear it. I'll give you guys about 10 more seconds. I still see 1 or 2 people not responding. All right. So we're going to practice conjugating in the preterite tense. Okay, so you're going to see 5 different sentences here. Inside the parentheses, they are giving you different options, right, that you can choose for these sentences. And you're going to choose the one that is correctly conjugated, right? So what I would say is step 1, right, figure out what are the subject pronouns in the sentence so that you are able to correctly conjugate the verb. So I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes so that you guys can try these on your own, and then we will come back together. Thank you guys for participating, by the way. For part 2, right, you're going to do just like we did in our gateway problem. You're going to fill in the blank by conjugating the word in the parentheses in the preterite tense, right? For number 1, it says, mi prima blank los rápidos en el año pasado. So you're basically going to look at the word navegar. You're going to conjugate it, right, based on the subject pronoun in the sentence. And then you're going to add it in to fill in the blank. So I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes. That's 1 minute for each conjugation, and then we will come back together. All right, so for part 3, you are going to respond to the question about yourself in the preterite tense. So it's asking, escribe 2 oraciones completas diciendo qué hiciste ayer y qué hicieron tus amigos la semana pasada. So you're basically going to say what were 1 or 2 things that you did yesterday and 1 or 2 things that your friends did last week. And you will have 5 minutes. Our exit ticket for today. Did you feel red, yellow, or green with today's assignment? How comfortable were you with conjugating in the preterite tense? Explain using but, because, or so. So green or I feel green is not our full response, right? You have to tell me why. So once you guys finish with your exit tickets, you guys are good to go. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Thursday, and I will see you all tomorrow. Hasta mañana, everyone. Que pasen bien.
Just have a question.
Yes, talk to me, Hattie.